Council is, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
Wonderful. Excellent. And for those that are listening in, I think we'll go ahead and I'll just kind of ask if certain members are on, and that way you can say yes, and that way anyone listening in knows who's present. So Suzanne Crouch, Lieutenant Governor, is Kelly Mitchell, Indiana's Treasurer of State.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Is Tom McGowan with us?
I do not believe he is.
All right. Andy Place? I thought I saw Andy earlier.
He was having problems and he jumped off to start back in.
All right. June Midkiff?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Michael Schottmeyer?
Present.
Perfect. Well, thank you, board, and we will convene the March 25th, 2021 Indiana Housing Community Development Authority Board meeting. We will start our meeting with our first item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. That is our February 25th, 2021 minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Mark Pascarello.
Second.
I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't introduce you. I apologize.
No worries whatsoever.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item on our agenda is Real Estate Department, and we have our Anchor Employer Workforce Housing Demonstration Program. And Samantha Spergel will be presenting this morning. Good morning, Samantha.
Good morning, thank you. So this is our second Anchor Employer Workforce Housing Demonstration Program proposal. To provide a very brief background, back in 2019, we launched this initiative to help create and incentivize public-private partnerships with anchor employers across the state to invest in workforce housing. Through that, we released a request for proposal, or RFP, to select eligible anchor employers in June of 2019 to invest up to $4 million of non-federal IHCDA funds to Indiana anchor employers, with a maximum of $1 million to any one selected employer to help promote workforce housing. As required under this RFP, each selected employer must agree to either match or exceed IHCDA's investment. So through that RFP, we were able to successfully have 4 anchor employers selected for the program. Each employer and their respective teams were required to participate in a collaborative workshop in late 2019, and since then, each team has continued to participate in monthly meetings to report progress and move toward implementation. So with that, I'm very excited to present our second project. So this is with IU Health, partnering with Near North Development Corporation, which is a community development corporation on the near north side of Indianapolis. 2179 LLC, which is a wholly owned nonprofit subsidiary of Near North, will be developing the Excelsior Apartments, which is a new construction project at 22nd and Illinois. This involves 80 mixed income rental units affordable to households earning less than 120% of area median income. 10 of those units will be for households at 60% AMI. 10 of those units will be for 100% or lower of the area median income, and then 60 units will be for households at 120% or lower of the area median income. All units will be 1 or 2 bedrooms.
Hey, Samantha, excuse me. What is the area median income?
Oh, that's a great question. So the area median income is a calculation of income for a particular jurisdiction. 60% AMI, for example, for a 2-bedroom household in Indianapolis, and I actually pulled this up. Let me see if I can find it. I believe it's, let's say, $45,000 or $45,000. And it does vary based on geography and household size. Most of these units will be targeted to 85 to 90% of the area median income and will be protected for a period of 10 to 20 years, depending on the unit itself.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. That's a great question. So in addition to the residential component, the project will also include the Mosaic Center, which is a community and workforce training center and outdoor green space. The Mosaic Center is part of IU Health's additional investment to the project, not just in investing in the actual physical real estate itself, but also wanting to invest in education and training for both the current and future workforce, which is really innovative and exciting. IU Health will also be putting in $1 million of a grant for the actual construction of the units to meet the match requirements for this program. So included in the board packet is the loan terms. I will very quickly just go over some of the high level notes on the term sheet. So IHCDA's $1 million investment will be for a loan term of 120 months with the maturity date to be coterminous with the maturity date of the senior lender. The interest rate is set at 0% for the life of the loan, with installment payments based on net operating cash flow through those 10 years, with a balloon payment due upon loan maturity. And IHCDA will be charging an administrative fee to cover the costs of administering the loan. So with that, I'm happy to pause and take any questions from the board.
Questions for Samantha? I think we're ready for your resolution, Samantha.
Thank you very much. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding a loan in an amount not to exceed $1 million to 2179 LLC under the Anchor Employer Workforce Housing Demonstration Program as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Andy Place, motion for approval.
Thank you.
June Midkiff, I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda under real estate development is our 2022 qualified allocation plan, and Alan Rakowski will be presenting. Good morning, Alan.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, members of the board. Here today to present our recommendation for the 2022 qualified allocation plan. So starting with background, the QAP is a federally mandated planning requirement under the Internal Revenue Code, Section 42. It explains how the state will allocate its low-income housing tax credits to produce new or rehab existing affordable rental housing. It establishes thresholds, set-asides, evaluation factors, compliance requirements to target credits in a manner consistent with IHCDA's strategic plan. So on the process, IHCDA released 2 drafts of the QAP. We had the first draft released on January 25th, and we had a public hearing. It was a virtual public hearing on February 5th. We also accepted 2 weeks to submit written comments to us. On February 24th, we had a second draft of the QAP released. This draft was then based on the feedback we had after we released the first draft. We held a public hearing on March 4th, and again, that was a virtual public hearing. And once again, we accepted written comments for a period of 2 weeks. Based on written comments, public comments, and continued internal discussions, modifications were made to the final draft. And in your packet, we have a list of the most significant changes attached in Exhibit A. At this point, I'd like you to direct you to Exhibit A. I'm going to highlight some of the changes listed, some of the higher level changes that I wanted to point out today in Exhibit A. So I wanted to start just with a note that due to the uncertainty with COVID-19, we're proposing that the 2022 QAP be a 1-year QAP to allow additional changes as needed after the 2022 round. IHCDA would then intend to return to a 2-year QAP, which has been our standard for quite some time for the 2023-2024 QAP. So at this time, we didn't want to commit to any changes that would last 2 years as we have done previously with the 2-year QAP. Again, due to the uncertainty right now, the 1-year QAP gives us more flexibility and a little bit more time to evaluate what things, how things are impacted by the pandemic and what the best actions are moving forward. So in the QAP, there are 5 main sections highlighted below. There's the set-asides, which are the different buckets we place our credits into. There are threshold requirements, which are the minimum standards that a project must meet to be eligible. There are the evaluation factors, or are also known as the scoring categories. We have a miscellaneous section, which establishes deadlines, fees, post-award requirements. And then we have our schedules, which govern supplemental funding. That goes along with tax credits and provide greater detail on some of the threshold requirements within the QAP. So starting with section 4, set-asides, just to highlight a couple here, I wanted to note that we're recommending to remove the stellar community designation set-aside. The reason for this is with the last funding round that the board approved last month, all eligible stellar community projects have been funded. Because stellar did not happen last year, is not scheduled to happen in 2021. We're proposing that in this 1-year QAP, we not have a stellar set aside. The expectation is that if stellar does return next year, we'll take that into account in our next QAP, whether that be a set aside or whether that be other incentives for those types of projects. We're also recommending to remove the workforce housing set aside. This is a set aside we've had now for 4 funding rounds in our QAP. Our recent awards have shown that a lot of workforce housing deals are happening around the state, oftentimes outside of the set aside. So, this combined with a good number of scoring categories that help workforce housing deals get done is really less than the need to have a specific set aside for workforce housing, and that's why we're recommending that it be removed. So with the removal of those 2 set asides, it opens up 20% of credits. What we're proposing is to increase the location-based set asides, large city, small city, and rural, would each increase from 10% to 15%. And then the qualified not-for-profit set aside would also increase from 10% to 15%. So also in this section, you'll see there are a number of clarifications and some smaller scale changes to existing set asides. I did want to point out under this section 4.6 general, just to note that the 2022 general set aside is going to be allocated in the same manner as we did for the 2021 general set asides. So if you recall last month, we put those credits in with the yearly 9% competitive round. Our intention is to do that again in 2022. And then look after this year, see if we may return to what we've done previously, to use that as an innovative set aside. We've used that for the Moving Forward program. See if perhaps if in 2023 we return to something like that. On section 5 threshold requirements, what we have here primarily a lot of clarification, smaller scale changes with regards to documenting sources, our underwriting requirements, supportive housing requirements, fee limitations and how they're calculated, design requirements. Did want to point out just a few things here. One is 5.1H1. Application fees must be paid through the IHCDA online payment portal. So this is more administrative, but I wanted to highlight it's just our way to kind of continue to be more efficient, to eliminate as much paper coming into our agency as possible and just make our tracking much more easier to track. So we're moving to that, really, I think, related to a lot of our real estate programs. And this is just, I think, the most efficient way. So that's kind of an internal way that we'll be handling it. Also wanted to point out 5.3B, an adjustment in the developer fee calculation. What we're proposing is the highest per unit fee is now earned for the first 30 units and not the first 20. So to give an example, the way the fee is set up for developers is that your fee is based on the number of units that you produce. So currently in the QAP, if you get $23,000 per unit, this is being a developer, the fee that they earn for the first 20 tax credit units, and we're proposing that that be adjusted so they get that higher amount for the first 30. So not a huge change, but enough, I think, to have an effect. We felt that this was a fair adjustment, especially in light of the unique circumstances and some of the development challenges that our developers have faced over the last year. So the other, again, threshold items are really often, just improvements that we've made based on feedback, and then just clarifications. Again, when we go through a funding round, oftentimes we have to issue FAQs to better explain what our intention is. So that's what a lot of these are. I want to jump ahead then to section 6, the scoring criteria. So again, this is also, you'll see that we made a lot of tweaks, updated some of our current scoring categories. We don't really have, I'll highlight a couple of the new categories, but not a lot changing here. So the total number of points are decreased from 148 to 144. And again, our intent was not to make a lot of changes in this QAP just because of the the uncertainty right now, and I want to make it so that as we get into the planning process for the next QAPs, when we may see a more significant number of changes or changes based on data that we've been able to gather over the course of this year. So some of the changes here I want to highlight section 6.4b. I did want to mention that we're removing the opportunity zone scoring category. So this was a 3-point category in the QAP that we introduced with the last QAP. We had feedback that these opportunity zone funding tend to work better with economic development projects, and the developers weren't seeing as much of a benefit, at least at this stage, for having opportunity zone funds for their housing. They're still trying to figure out how that works. That combined with oftentimes opportunity zones match closely with QCTs, with DDAs, and with other incentives that are already in place that really help deals get done in opportunity zones. So we didn't feel they need to have a specific category for this, because deals tend to get done in those communities as it is. Housing Needs Index, section 6.4e, is a new component, a new 1-point category under our Housing Needs Index scoring category, which is a total of a 4-point category. I did want to point out that we're adding a new 1-point option for counties in which 25% or more of the renter households are considered to have at least one severe housing problem. This is per HUD data. So this is our attempt to get to the actual quality of the housing, whereas the other 3 measures within this category all relate really to availability of affordable housing and a number of renters that are classified as rent burden. We didn't really have something that looks at the actual quality of the housing stock, so we think that that's certainly an important addition. And then I did want to mention section 6.5J. We are adding in this QAP, we're proposing to add penalty points for release through a qualified contract or foreclosure. So a little background here. The qualified contract is the option that allows property owners to opt out of the program after year 15. So normally this is a 30-year program. They have the option to opt out after year 15 to leave the program. Our recommendation is to assess negative points on a current application if the owner, applicant, or developer has requested a qualified contract release for any one of their projects in Indiana after January 25th of 2021. So we're introducing this category to incentivize the preservation of affordable housing and protect the tax credit program, to ensure that owners are completing the intended 30-year extended use period for all tax credit projects. Moving to section 7, miscellaneous, we did establish the application dates. So for the 2022 round, we're proposing that they be due in July, with a anticipated November 2021 board meeting to make the recommendations. And this gets aligned with what we had done the last 2 years. Last year was pushed back because of COVID, but we're proposing to go back to that timeline, which the developers have been very supportive of having at that timeline. Moving ahead to schedules. So again, these schedules, the main ones I wanted to point out are the ones that relate to financing that goes with tax credits. So Schedule D1, private activity tax exempt bond financing requirements. We're proposing to reduce IHCDA's bond issuance fee from 1%, the total bond issuance, to 0.5%. And this is based on feedback. We hear oftentimes that our fee is quite a bit higher than the local jurisdiction, and that's often the reason that they choose not to use us as the issuer. Certainly that's their decision, but we hope that by reducing our fee could lead to more dealers selecting IHCDA to issue the bonds. Procedures for accessing home funds. So we did increase the award limitations here. If you're a non-CHODO, you can request up to $500,000, and if you're a CHODO, you can request up to $750,000. And I'll point out Schedule J, the procedures for accessing development funds. So development fund is certainly a real valuable resource that goes along with the tax credits. We didn't make any policy changes here. Really, they are just clarifications to better explain the process and our policies. So those are the main changes. There's a lot here, but I wanted to highlight just those as some of the higher level ones. Before I open up the question, I did want to acknowledge the team of staff that worked on a QAP rewrite because it was a team effort. In addition to myself, we had Matt Rayburn, Peter Nelson, Stephen Enns, and Jerry Bain were all part of this committee. We started the process last July, actually, and worked as a team, and we reviewed the QAP word by word. So we went through every word of it, considered all everything that we have in there. Also through the process, reviewed all the public comments we got to make sure that we understood what those comments were and had a reason for decisions based on what they were recommending, whether we accepted those comments or whether we followed those recommendations or not. So I want to acknowledge your efforts and just make the board aware of their hard work. And it's truly a team effort. It's not just one person making decisions here, but it's truly a committee. I think we're being very deliberate and you're trying to be as transparent as possible. So with that, I'd be happy to open it up for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Alan. First of all, let me commend the housing agency and Alan, you and your team for being nimble and flexible and putting a 1 year, kind of adjusting for a 1 year qualified allocation plan as opposed to 2 years. I think that is very insightful and certainly was the right move. So thank you for doing that. And board, questions for Alan? I think we're ready for your resolution, Alan.
All right, let me pull that up here. Okay, staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the 2022 qualified allocation plan and its submission to Governor Eric Holcomb as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
I move to approve. This is June.
Thank you.
Andy Place, second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Alan.
All right, thank you.
And of course, our next item on our agenda is our home community housing development organization pre-development loans. The New Hope Development Service, Housing Opportunities, Inc., and Hamilton County Area Housing Development. And we have Megan Heber presenting, and welcome, Megan.
Good morning, thank you. Yes, I have for you today some community housing development organization pre-development loans. I'll start off with a really brief background. The Home Investment Partnership Program provides funding for new construction and rehabilitation of home buyer and rental projects, but can also be used for pre-development activities for community housing development organizations, or CHODOs. CHODOs are IHCDA certified, they're not-for-profit housing organizations, and they meet specific home regulations. These regulations also define two types of pre-development loans that are available to CHODOs. The first is site control loans, which can be used when the site has not yet been acquired to assist CHODOs in the early stages of development. The second is seed money loans, which may be accessed once the site has been already acquired to assist with pre-construction costs. The maximum any eligible CHODO may request for either loan per project is $30,000. A bit about our process. The real estate department accepts these pre-development loan applications on a rolling basis until all the funds in the fund are expended. And the staff reviews each application to ensure that all the proposed costs are eligible under our home regulations and that the organization does meet that definition of a CHODO. The interest rate on these loans is 0% with a repayment term of 24 months, and the loan may be repaid from construction loan proceeds or other project income. And as per home guidelines, IHCDA may forgive these loans in whole or in part if there are impediments to the project development, which IHCDA determines are reasonably beyond the control of the CHODO. So we have three organizations today that have applied for these pre-development loans. The first is New Hope Development Services. They are requesting 3 CHODO pre-development loans that will assist them with architectural, engineering, and legal fees, and in gaining site control for a couple of new construction developments in Beechwood, Edinburgh, and Rockport, Indiana. All 3 of these developments are for, like I mentioned, pre-development site control loans, and each will be for projects that will be new construction of 10 units, and they are requesting $14,100 per site control loan. The second organization is Housing Opportunities, and they're just requesting one loan of $18,500 in also a site control loan that will assist them with some fees, a market study, and gaining site control for a rehabilitation project, rental rehab project in LaPorte, Indiana. And this project would potentially preserve 7 units of affordable housing for residents in LaPorte County. The last organization is the Hamilton County Area Housing Development Organization, and also called HAND, and they are requesting the maximum of $30,000 in their pre-development loan that will assist them with fees for a rental new construction project in Fishers. This development will hope to provide 8 new units of affordable housing for residents in Hamilton County. You can see in your packet the table of all 5 pre-development loans and their recommended amounts. And the key performance indicators for these pre-development loans that we have included are to track the utilization of this resource by our CHOTO partners as it relates to our increased outreach and efforts to increase the number of IHCDA certified CHOTOs. And then additionally, we'd like to track the percentage of home projects that utilize these pre-development loans to see how many are successful in their home applications. And at this time, I'll pause for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Megan? Just kind of curious, do you ever get any kind of resistance or pushback from any of the communities where these projects are taking place?
Yeah, I think that there are definitely some concerns in certain counties, but we work with our partners to help them through that process. And I can't say specifically, but generally I think that occasionally that happens. That is a concern that happens, but a lot of times we're able to work with partners and engaging their community and providing opportunities for them to do some public outreach and move towards progressing with the projects.
Yeah, I often wonder if affordable housing is the proper term, that in, maybe today we need to look at calling it something different, because communities often think about affordable as low income, and certainly it's not, they aren't the same. Have you all ever has there ever been any discussion about that?
I'm not sure. That is a question that I'd say I can't answer. I know there's been some discussions around the usage of mixed income housing, which I think Sam mentioned earlier in the board meeting, but that's something I can definitely get back to you on.
Yeah, just curious. Or Jake, you're on the line. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, yeah, I think your point sometimes that the term affordable housing can have a negative connotation to it. However, to your point, I think people don't really understand the income levels that Samantha earlier was sharing with us. We're talking about working families, working households here. Now, certainly there are developments that we finance that are targeting some of our lowest income and most vulnerable populations. That certainly is the case, but that's not always the case. And these are probably some really good examples of where we're looking to develop or preserve housing that is probably more on the workforce housing side and our working families. And so that term affordable housing gets used very broadly in a lot of times. And I do think that is a challenge oftentimes when you use a term like that, that it can be misunderstood, and because it's trying to be applied in every community and it can mean different things. I do think that is one of the conversations that we're having with the housing working group as we develop our study, our housing study, and we create an interactive user interface to look at housing data. And that is one of the questions that has come up is what do we call it? What's the term that we're going to use to actually look at our housing? So so that is a great question. I think one that we're all kind of talking about, because one of the things we're also trying to understand is trying to get us all using the same terminology. And so affordable housing can mean many different things to many people in many different communities, and it can range from low income to moderate income based on the program and based on how we're doing that. The other thing I'll mention too, when we talk about affordable housing, IHCDA is actually, the financing that we provide is actually a very small subset. Across our state, probably the largest provider of affordable housing is what I would call naturally occurring affordable housing, which are our next door neighbors, our small families who have identified rental units and using that. Certainly through the pandemic, it has come to light that we have a lot of folks who have retired and have decided to become landlords, and they may have 1 or 2 or 3 units of rental housing that is affordable, meaning that it is at the same rent rates that we are providing at. Actually, that's our largest number of affordable housing across our state. Is not financed by IHCDA. It's actually financed at the local level by a lot of our smaller folks who have 1 or 2 units, and they use that as just income for themselves. And certainly they're feeling a strain right now as some of the challenges related to rent payments have continued. But I think to your point, affordable housing is something that we need to continue to educate and inform folks. What does that mean? Because it can mean a lot of different things.
Well, and words mean something to people, and it might be at some point in time worth kind of consulting an expert to see if there's maybe better terminology to use that can be consistently used across the board by all the stakeholders. But anyway, any questions? Any questions for Megan? I think we're ready for your resolution, Megan. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding home pre-development loans in an aggregate amount not to exceed $90,800 to the applicant set forth in Table A, as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to
Move for
approve.
approval. Second, Mike Schotmeyer.
It's been moved by Treasurer Mitchell and seconded by Mike Schotmeyer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda, 2019 Supportive Housing Institute, South Bend Heritage Foundation, Hope Avenue Homes. Chris Neville. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, board. I am Chris Nevels, the Home and CDBG Manager at IHCDA, and I am here to present the memo for the South Bend Heritage Foundation's Hope Avenue Permanent Supportive Housing project. So just a brief background on the Supportive Housing Institute. IHCDA partners annually with the Corporation for Supportive Housing to offer the Indiana Supportive Housing Institute. The Institute provides training and technical assistance to help partners learn how to navigate the process of developing housing with supportive services to prevent and end homelessness. A request for proposals was sent out for the 2019 Institute in October 2018, and responses were due to IHCDA on December 3rd, 2018. Consideration was given to both integrated supportive housing, which is housing with no more than 25% of the housing set aside for supportive housing, and also 100% supportive housing projects. 6 teams were selected to participate in that 2019 Institute. The 2019 Institute focused on developments serving either chronically homeless or chronically homeless households or chronically homeless veteran households, and provided targeted training, technical assistance, and the opportunity to apply for pre-development financing for both new and experienced development teams. The teams that were involved in the Institute received over 80 hours of training, including individualized technical assistance and resources to assist in completing their projects. Industry experts provided insight on property management, financing, and building design. Teams who successfully graduated from the Institute were eligible to apply for funding on a rolling basis through IHCDA's HOME program, National Housing Trust Fund program, and Development Fund program. Teams were also eligible to apply for project-based vouchers through IHCDA. Additionally, applicants that were certified as a community housing development organization CHODO, as Megan talked about earlier, we're also eligible to receive up to $50,000 in CHODO operating supplement funds. The eligible supportive housing projects must meet all federal requirements of the Home and Housing Trust Fund program, and the housing proposed must also incorporate the Housing First model, which includes eviction prevention and harm reduction strategies. Comprehensive case management services must be accessible by the tenants where they live, and they need to be designed in a manner to maximize tenant stability and self-sufficiency. So now a little bit more information on this particular project. South Bend Heritage Foundation is a 2019 Institute graduate, and they submitted an application for Home, Housing Trust Fund, and Development Fund, as well as CHODO operating supplement funds for their project Hope Avenue Homes on September 26, 2020. IHCDA staff reviewed the application for all threshold requirements and scoring. So Hope Avenue Homes will be a new construction building with 22 one-bedroom permanent supportive housing units located on the 4000 block of Hope Avenue in South Bend in St. Joseph County. All 22 units will serve persons who are experiencing chronic homelessness, have a disability, and are at or below 30% of the area median income. South Bend Heritage Foundation partnered with the City of South Bend and Oaklawn for the Permanent Supportive Housing Institute to develop the project. Part of South Bend Heritage Foundation's mission is community development, and they have experience in applying for and managing grants such as tax credits, historic tax credits, AHP, and local home and CDBG funds through the St. Joseph County Housing Consortium. They also have experience administering IHCDA and other grants. South Bend Heritage Foundation met with neighborhood residents and local businesses, healthcare facilities, first responders, and homeless service providers to talk about the project and the concept of housing first and harm reduction. And in addition, the most recent St. Joseph County point in time count identified 411 persons in the area experiencing homelessness. So our KPIs for this project, for the Institute projects, are tracking the number of rental units produced through the 2019 Permanent Supportive Housing Institute, which currently is at 144 units. The change in numbers during the point in time count in St. Joseph County, and development benchmarks tracking the release of funds, start and completion of construction, funds drawn, inspections, and lease up for each project. So the staff does recommend the approval of Housing Trust Fund and Home CHODO operating supplement funds to South Bend Heritage Foundation. And with that, I will pause and take any questions that the board may have.
Board, any questions for Chris? I think we're ready for your resolution, Chris.
Okay. So staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the board approve awarding National Housing Trust Fund funding in the form of a grant and an amount not to exceed $2,200,000 to South Bend Heritage Foundation as recommended by staff. And do we need to stop?
If you're ready.
And resolve that the board approve awarding Home CHODO operating supplement funding in the form of grants in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to South Bend Heritage Foundation as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve. This is June.
Thank you.
Second, Mark Pascal.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
And our next item, project-based voucher awards for permanent supportive housing. And we have Jeff Zongalowitz with us. Jeff?
Good morning, board. Thank you. So I am presenting on this project-based voucher award for Southbound Heritage, which is the same project that you just approved the home funding for. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip over a lot of the specific details of the project, and Chris just went over all of that, and focus on why this project needs project-based voucher subsidy and how that kind of works with our project-based voucher program. So as Chris mentioned, this project went through the Permanent Supportive Housing Institute, and through that process, projects work to identify what type of rental assistance they're going to need for the project, and they kind of have two options there, either to use TOC rental assistance or project-based voucher rental assistance. this project identified that project-based voucher rental assistance would be the best option for it. So they, with their home funding application, they also submitted an application to us for a project-based voucher subsidy. So at the same time we were reviewing the home application, we also reviewed that project-based voucher application and determined that they met all of our requirements for a project-based voucher award. So we are recommending that the project be approved for 22 vouchers for 1-bedroom units. The total maximum project-based voucher subsidy based on the current fair market rent for the first year would be $163,000. However, that would be that is the absolute maximum. In all likelihood, it would be lower than that, since tenants at the property will have some portion of their rent that they will cover. The total term of the award will be for 15 years, which matches the home compliance period for the project. So we wanted to make sure that those awards match up. And then the key performance indicators that we will be tracking for the project are the utilization of awarded vouchers by the property. So we'll be tracking the vacancy rate and make sure that it's not higher than a typical property as we would expect. The total number of chronically homeless households served by the vouchers, and then compliance with the project-based voucher program through the 15-year HAP agreement. So I can take any questions.
Are there any questions for Jeff? I think we're ready for your resolution, Jeff.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve an allocation of 22 project-based vouchers to Southbound Heritage for Hope Avenue Homes for a period of 15 years based on the annual fair market rents for St. Joseph County as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff. And I believe you also are presenting on the Housing Choice Voucher, God, I can't even read it, annual plan and administrative plan submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the annual administrative plan and annual plan, as well as kind of our annual program update to the board. Typically this takes place in September. However, due to COVID, this was pushed back a little bit this year. So a little bit of background on the program. Our Housing Choice Voucher program is our rental assistance programs for low and very low income households throughout the state of Indiana. Our program covers all areas of the state that do not have a local housing authority. So for example, Indianapolis has the Indianapolis Housing Authority, so we do not cover Marion County, they cover that, but we cover the areas of the state that do not have that local housing authority that plays this role. So the program is administered based on our administrative plan, which we publish each year and update annually. Updates typically include updates based on new HUD guidance or program changes that we have identified that we want to make. This year, our changes are a little less than normal. Obviously, with COVID last year, it was a busy year. We had already issued some waiver guidance to our partners on the program. So we wanted to keep things a little simpler this year rather than putting forth another large administrative change burden on our partners to learn. So this year there's 4 main areas that we are changing in the administrative plan. Most of them are relatively minor. The first one is we are reducing the minimum rent for the program for $50 to $25. This aligns with 2 of our other federal rental assistance programs. So our performance-based contract administrative program, the minimum rent for that program is set federally at $25. And then also we were recently last summer awarded a Section 811 PRA program as part of rental assistance for non-elderly disabled households. And HUD also requires that program, the minimum rent be set at $25. So to make consistent, to provide some consistency between our rental assistance programs, we are changing our Housing Choice Voucher rental assistance minimum rent rentals to $25 to match those programs. Additionally, we are simplifying some reporting requirements for the program. So for households on the program, they are required to report changes in household income so that we can update their rental assistance amount, because the rental assistance is based on their household income. We have increased the period that they have report from 15 days to 30 days. We already require that the households provide 2 pay stubs. So typically that was going to take 30 days anyway. So this just allows them to kind of collect those 2 pay stubs before they have to provide it to us. We also reduced the requirement for HQS, as housing quality inspections, to biannually. Previously, it was annually. Obviously, last year with COVID, we were not able to go out and do inspections. So HUD kind of encouraged all PHAs to adopt this change to go to biannual, so that if we were unable to do an inspection in 2020, we could still do one in 2021 and remain in compliance with federal regulations. And then the final change that we're making is to change to triennial recertifications for fixed income households. So this doesn't mean that we're only calculating their income once every 3 years. What it means is that we're only actually collecting all the paperwork every 3 years. In between years, we are just applying the Social Security Administration cost of living adjustment to the income that we already know they have, rather than requiring them to turn in a new income documentation for income that we know is fixed by the Social Security Administration anyway, since those are typically either retired households that are on Social Security or SSI or SSDI. So I still have more, but I'm going to pause there to take any questions on the administrative plan changes before I go into some of the kind of more review of 2020 program year.
Questions for Jeff? Go on.
All right, thank you. So in 2020, we did receive a new program, new special program vouchers for the Family Unification Program. We received this award in August after applying for it last in December 2019. This is a program in partnership with Indiana Department of Child Services, and we have been working closely with DCS since we got that award to utilize these vouchers. These target 2 population groups. One is foster youth aging out of foster care, so we can provide them some rental assistance so that they can begin living independently and then have a stable place to live and build some independence, have some help while they're building some independence. And then additionally, it assists families whose main barriers to staying together is stable housing. So we work with DCS to identify households that are good candidates for this program, and then they refer them to us so we can provide some housing assistance to them. I want to recognize Michael Way on my team. He has done an outstanding job. Before coming to us, he worked with DCS, and he's been working closely with DCS on that program and doing a wonderful job at it. Additionally, we anticipate receiving some foster youth initiative vouchers in 2021. This is a program based on the Family Unification Program, but specifically targets the foster youth. We will be receiving those vouchers as soon as we utilize a higher percentage of our Family Unification Program vouchers, which is just taking some time as we just received that program in August. So we're just taking some time as expected to utilize that award. So then some kind of numbers on our 2020 calendar year program. Through the Voucher program, which is our program that provides rental assistance and supportive services in partnership with the VA to veterans that are experiencing homelessness, we were able to serve 298 households last year. We also had 891 households on our program that were experiencing homelessness at time of admission. We also had 3,173 households with at least one individual with a disability on our program in 2020. In 2020, the program provided a total of just over $28 million in rental assistance. That was 96.3% of our allocated budget authority from HUD, and our average per month rental subsidy was $456 compared to an average tenant paid rent of $291. And then some of the benchmarks that HUD tracks for us, we had a 99.95% voucher reporting success rate compared to the HUD requiring a 95%. And then our annual Section 8 Management Assessment Program score was 100%, which is a HUD designation of a high-performing PHA. Kudos to my entire team for their work on the program over the last year, especially with COVID and a lot of curveballs that threw us to keep us as a high-performing PHA and really making sure that we continue to serve all of our participants without any disruptions in service. So any questions on the 2020 program year or any other updates that I've provided?
Questions for Jeff? I think we're ready for your resolution, Jeff.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the HCB 2021 annual plan and the attachments required for submission to HUD as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Andy Place, motion for approval.
Thank you.
I'll second. This is June.
Thank you. Board, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff. Our next item, Community Services Department, our Emergency Solution Grant, CARES Act, Homeless Prevention, Rapid Rehousing, Shelter, and Overreach Funding Request. Kristen Garvey, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I am the grants manager for the Community Services Division, and I'm back again to request approval for our final allocations for the COVID-specific Emergency Solution Grant, or ESGCV. This funding comes from the CARES Act, and in total, we received a little over $31.9 million. The ESGCV funding is designated to prevent, prepare for, or respond to the COVID-19 pandemic by assisting people who are homeless who are at risk of becoming homeless. With the passage of this resolution, we will have allocated the remaining ESGCV funding. As a reminder, we have two types of requests. The first is for our homelessness prevention subrecipients that we identified last year to serve as local partners, or what we call hubs, for processing rental assistance. Using the data from our rental assistance portal, we have forecasted what each subrecipient will need to serve the applicants who have qualified for the ESG funds. A total of $5,833,000 has been allocated to them. The second type of allocations is for organizations who submitted applications for rapid rehousing, emergency shelter, or street outreach. Today's requests are for applications that we received by March 5th. In addition, we submitted a substantial amendment to our 2019 consolidated plan in February, which was approved by HUD. This change allows IHCDA to allocate funds to itself so that it can provide direct services, for example, paying landlords, in cases where some of our smaller subrecipients are struggling to meet demand due to volume or capacity. A few have struggled with the overwhelming numbers of applications that came in from their region. Others are dealing with some of the same issues as those they serve, such as staff members being quarantined or becoming ill from COVID-19, which has left them short-staffed during critical periods. This change will allow us to be more flexible and able to adapt realities more quickly. So the breakdown of allocations for these requests are as follows. Rapid rehousing is $4,923,778. Emergency shelter is $1,603,818, and street outreach is $265,000. The total amount for both requests is $12,625,596. So at this time, I can take any questions that you might have.
Board, questions for Kristen? Well, Kristen, I think we're ready for your resolution.
All right, thank you. So the staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding an allocation of the Emergency Solution Grant CARES Act funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $12,625,596 for homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing, emergency shelter, and street outreach to the organizations and in the amount and funding category set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve. This is June.
Thank you.
Mike Schotmeyer, second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Kristen.
All right, thank you.
And now the moment we have all been waiting for, the executive update by Jacob Sight.
All right. Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I don't know if I can live up to that high of expectations. So, all right. Let's see. Just a couple of updates here real quick. The Indiana Emergency Rental Assistance Program is live. We've launched our accepting applications. Applications are being accepted at indianahousingnow.org. As I've mentioned in the past, there are also 6 other local municipalities that are administering their own rental assistance program as well. And 5 of those 6 are currently also accepting applications. We continue to host web meetings with the 6 municipalities to ensure that we're sharing best practices and updating each other on our program. So there's really some nice work being done there across our state as it comes to the emergency rental assistance program and the implementations we're seeing, not only within IHCDA, but within the other municipalities as well. Just a quick update on where we are with our applications. We're just shy of 12,500 applications that we've received. We're moving through the income and benefit review process right now. We are on target to start making payments in early April. That was our goal, and so we're continuing to hit those targets and to start making payments here soon. So that's where we are. You know, I do want to take a time out and just thank behind the scenes. Obviously, we have a lot of people that are working on this across many different departments within IHCDA, and we actually created an entirely new department in IHCDA dedicated to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So I first just want to thank Ray Under. She's the director of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. She has been awesome, and just everything from understanding processes and working through developing a policy and listening to a wide array of stakeholders, as you could imagine. As I mentioned earlier, our small landlords, to our larger, more sophisticated landlords, to our utility providers, to our housing advocates, our housing service providers, our renters. Ray has just done an outstanding job of listening and making sure that we're incorporating policies and procedures in place so we can respond and deliver on providing the assistance for rent and utilities. So thanks to Rayana. On the other side, obviously we get a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails and responding to those, and Ryan Spickle has really taken the lead and stepped up for us to take that customer service piece on. Katie Hall has also just been amazing with working with our not-for-profits and working with that benefit analysis and review process. So, and then even behind the scenes, Vinya Dunbar on our accounting side, working closely with making sure that when we're ready to making these payments, that those payments are being made responsibly and quickly as possible, so that we're accountable for every dollar that goes out of this agency to support housing stability. And then on the technology side, Annette Richard has continued to really be a true leader when it comes to the thing about developing and implementing technology so that we can serve as many Hoosiers as possible in all of the counties that we're responsible for. So again, making that process as seamless as possible, not only the front interface, but behind the scenes, that interface that we've created with review and collecting documents. So Annette has continued to really be a true leader. And obviously there's a lot of other people that I'm missing. We have a huge team working on this. So but they are doing great work, and I just want to thank all of them for that work that they're doing. Quick update on our housing study. We're on schedule. We're looking at about a 6-month process here. Recently, we've had some really quality discussions on the user interface for this housing study. We're not just creating a housing study, we're creating a database of housing information that will continually be updated for an array of audience, whether that be a housing developer, a housing service provider, an employer, local officials, builders, even our residents and people that want to live in Indiana or looking to move to Indiana. They can look at some of these information that we have related to housing, make informed decisions, because housing is a choice, and we want to make sure that they're making the choice to live in our state and make sure that they can do that. So we want to make that a friendly interface, creating tools and charts and reports for folks to be able to use. And to get back to that question about, what's the term of affordable housing? It means many different things to many different people. One of the things is that we hope that our communities can use this information to make informed decisions on the housing needs that they need. And as you have seen, and kind of does create some confusion, is that at IHCDA, thanks to the great folks that we have here, we've always created flexibility with our programs to ensure that our communities and our housing providers can identify the need and the resources here at IHCDA, the financing tools, so that they can focus and concentrate on using the financing that's available at IHCDA to address those opportunities that they have in their communities when it comes to housing. But in order to do that, we have to be able to give them the tools that they need in terms of the data in an easy way that they can make good informed decisions on our financing that we have available. And obviously there could be other opportunities for other financing tools as well. So really excited. We're still on pace with our housing. I don't know if housing study is the right term. I think that's one of the things that we're questioning too, as well as how do we describe this to the average person to understand what we're creating here. A housing study, it gets used in different ways. It's not just a housing study, it's much more interactive than that. And it's a bigger, broader tool. So we need to think through kind of what we want to call this as well. So moving on. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 has been passed, and we're still kind of reviewing it. We're waiting on some additional information, but let me hit real high level here on 6 programs that IHCDA is anticipating will be administering with some additional resources that came through this act. We are aware that there will be Emergency Rental Assistance 2.0, so there'll be additional rent and utility resources that will be available. We're not sure yet exactly what that funding looks like, but we're aware of that, and we're anticipating continuing with Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Our Homeowner Assistance Fund, we are expecting additional resources here for IHCDA to assist homeowners with mortgage and utility assistance as well. For the home program, which we just made some awards with our Home Chodo and pre-development awards that we just did today. There's additional money coming here for homeless assistance and supportive services, and that's going to be really around developing affordable housing and also maybe even providing some tenant-based rental assistance as well. To be determined on the dollar amount that's coming to Indiana, but certainly the home program is receiving some additional dollars. Housing Choice Vouchers, again, we just kind of looked at the Housing Choice Voucher plan and how we administer those dollars. There will be renewing emergency vouchers and providing resources here for the Housing Choice Voucher program as well. We expect to hear something on this one probably within the next 60 days on terms of the dollar, which again, to be determined. IHCDA already administers the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which provides assistance to households and renters and homeowners for energy costs. That'd be electricity, gas, or other fuel sources. We're expecting additional resources here for the LIHEAP program. Hopefully we'll hear soon what that dollar is, but we're expecting a significant dollar amount for our LIHEAP program, which we had run through our local service providers. And then another program that's going to complement the LIHEAP program is a new program that we're already working on developing is the low-income drinking water and wastewater emergency assistance program. It's going to provide assistance to renters and homeowners for drinking water and water costs. And so, again, we're waiting to receive more information on the dollar amount that will be coming to Indiana that we'll be able to provide and administer this through probably our local service providers as well. So,
Hey, Jake, drinking water, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean that money to go out and buy bottled water? Or I don't even understand.
I think it's more on your, it's probably going to be more aligned with your like an energy utility assistance program. So when you get a water bill, the water bill will probably also include your wastewater. So it's probably going to be more along the lines of your utility water bill that you get, that we would provide a one-time benefit to a renter or a homeowner for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but that's a good question. If someone has has well water, I'm not sure how that will play into that. That's a great question. That's something that I think we would probably need to think about getting some additional guidance on for folks who may not have a water or wastewater bill, and maybe have a septic system and well water. Not sure how that impacts them, but that's a great question. Something we'll need to continue to explore eligibility on that one. I just want to recognize Region 5, part of the continuum of care, specifically Region 5 as it relates to veteran homelessness. Kokomo Mayor Tyler Moore has received a letter recently from the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Veteran Affairs, and informed him that Indiana Region's 5 Planning Council has effectively ended homelessness among veterans. Region 5 is the first in Indiana to receive this distinction. And in order to really be recognized to achieve this goal, they had to meet requirements laid out in the federal criteria and benchmarks for ending veteran homelessness, which is intended to help communities drive down the number of veterans experiencing homelessness to as close to zero as possible, while building a system in place that supports long-term and lasting solutions. And so I just want to recognize, I know this has been a challenge even before the pandemic, but to know that we have a region in our state that is really focused on bringing together the services and the processes in place that when homelessness does happen, that we can house someone as quickly as possible with the supportive services that are in place that are needed, especially for our veterans. And so really proud of Region 5 for all the work that they've done in developing that seamless process to make sure that we have housing opportunities for folks that are experiencing homelessness there. So behind the scenes at IHCDA, we had several team members that were working and providing support roles for all of our regions across our state, but specifically Region 5 as well. And you know, our community service team, we've heard Kristen just a few minutes ago talk, and LB Hilton on there, but the entire community service team has been great. Zach Gross, in the IHCDA, we've worked really hard to develop permanent supportive housing across our state, and Zach has just been a tremendous leader in creating the Indiana Permanent Supportive Housing Institute. And you know, we don't walk away from properties once we get them online. Zach continues to work with them to make sure that that case management is being delivered. In Kokomo, we have Jackson Street Commons that is dedicated to our veterans. And then, so I'm just really proud of that work. Victoria Jennings Victoria's been great. She was a Vista for us last year, and Victoria is now full-time at IHCDA, and just really glad that she's part of our team. And she worked really closely with on homeless issues for a year, and helping put these systems in place. So just want to recognize Region 5 for their work. So the other thing here that I want to mention, we do put together an annual report. And last year we were able to launch that, provide that report a little earlier in the year. This year we're going to make it available here in April. So I'll make sure that I share that with the board next month at the next month's board meeting. And speaking of the next month's board meeting, it'll be held April 22nd at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we're anticipating that that meeting will also be a virtual meeting as well. So with that, Madam Chair, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Any questions for Jake? Jake, I just want to commend you and your team for just really stepping up to the plate and continuing to deliver great service during this very difficult time that we've all gone through. So thank you for that. I appreciate your leadership and am grateful for it. And if there are no questions for Jake, is there further business to come before the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. We stand adjourned. Thank you, board, and we will see you in April, virtually.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
Have a great day.
You too.
You as well. Okay.